Locating Solomon's Temple, Part 2. The gates of the temple were very large buildings. There were two gates in Herod's northern wall, the north gate and the Toddy gate. The gate's special lintel, built from two stones, one leading on the other, together formed a triangle of the Toddy gate. Warren's description of Cistern 6 is that its shape inside was like a hollow truncated pyramid, very similar. These two underground cisterns, buildings number 36 and 6, seem to be the ruins of Herod's North Gate and Toddy Gate. In the western wall there were four gates. One is called Robinson's Arch on the map. It entered the mount by means of a huge staircase. 600 feet across from this gate is the underground halls called Triple Gate on Warren's map. Inside Triple Gate, on the western side, partway up the passageway, was what appeared to be a huge lintel of a gate. This gate would have been the true east gate to the temple. This gate can also be seen on Sir Charles Wilson's map. Notice that the Muslims name this gate on the east the Gate of Elias, but that lintel and the ruins below would have been the gate which entered directly into the women's court of the temple. What this means is that these vaulted halls of Triple Gate on the maps were actually Solomon's porch or portico that he built to the east of the temple house. There are three archways of what are called Triple Gate in the south wall of the Temple Mount. The two on the right would have been how people entered and exited the porch from the south, and from there entered the east gate into the women's court. The arch on the left, the west, would have actually been inside the temple. When Benjamin Mazar excavated the Ophel Mound starting in 1967, ruins of stairs were found leading down from the two arches on the right only. There was a gap in the walkway between the arch on the left and the two arches on the right. In my theory, this is because that gap was where Solomon's east wall once stood. This would make the inside hall on the left, the west, Solomon's stoa, which lined the eastern wall inside the temple complex, and the other two halls on the right, east, an arched, open-aired entryway, so to speak, to the east gate. The king's entrance, because Solomon had built his palace just south of this on the Ophel Mound, and he entered through the east gate into the temple complex. The east wall that ran through this building would have consisted of a series of arches on both sides of the east gate running north and south. Inside, these halls are full of tons and tons of dirt and debris, leaving only the tops of the arches exposed. These halls do not lead up to the mount surface and never did. To think that Solomon's porch might still exist to this day, buried beneath the surface of the Temple Mount, is amazing to say the least. There is another set of arches in the southern wall that Warren called Double Gate. The Jews call these arches the Hulda Gates, believing this gate to be the most southern gate of Herod's temple complex. Only a small portion of one of these arches can be seen today. They were covered up when the Crusaders built a building against the south wall. In my theory, this is not the most southern gate of Herod's temple. Instead, this gate would have been what is called an inner gate of the temple. The inner gates were the entrances to the men's court, priest court, and the temple house itself. This is how the double gate halls appear on Warren's map. Next is the same map with an overlay of my diagram. I believe these halls to be where the old inner gates were once located. the inner south and north gates with the men's court in between. A single passage then continues to where Solomon's old north gate would have been located. To me, the ruins are speaking quite clearly of what they once were. The archways lay deep below the Al-Aqsa Mosque. I don't believe these halls to have been built by Herod. They are of recycled stones and columns. In fact, they were built after the 70 AD destruction of the temple. Even though these great halls were built after 70 AD, they were built upon those things that remained from the first and second temple era, such as the floor and steps. Sir Charles Warren wrote that the passages only extended for 190 feet from the south wall. But when the mosque was built, it appears that the passage was extended to its present length of 260 feet, but only on the east side. This means that the halls did not lead up to the temple platform when they were first built. To me, it looks as though someone dug out the inner gates and the men's court to preserve the area, perhaps to create a place of Jewish prayer. It definitely was built when no buildings were on the mount above it. So sometime after the Temple of Jupiter was torn down in 325 AD, the plaque from a statue at that time, which stood before the Temple of Jupiter, can be seen upside down in the wall above the Arch of Double Gate. Perhaps the builders of these walls could have been the Jews that were allowed to return to rebuild their temple in 363 AD. The work stopped when an earthquake hit and fire issued out of the ground. Many people were killed and maimed. The Muslims claimed that these walls were part of the first wooden mosque built on the mount that collapsed during an earthquake. But these halls are made of stone, not of wood, as the old mosque was. This sketch was drawn of the double gate halls as it might have looked when first built. Moving on now to the southeast corner, known as the section containing Solomon's stables. What an imposing sight this southeast corner is. Trying to visualize the mount without this corner at the time of Herod is difficult, but that was the case, as I hope to prove to you. The upper portion of the wall, all the way round the mount, was built by the Muslims after 638 AD. Below that is the portion that was constructed by the Romans. In the lowest portion of the wall on the eastern side, there is a straight joint in the wall where the Hasmonean wall meets up with what is believed to be a Herodian wall built in the 1st century. The Hasmonean wall ending at this vertical line in the east wall tells us that their wall took a 90-degree turn westward at this point. So the question is, did Herod's descendants build the wall from the Hasmonean wall all the way around to Triple Gate on the south wall, or was it built at a later time? Inside the lower section of this wall, it is made up of terraced vaults. The vaults are mistakenly called Solomon's Stables, dubbed so by the Crusaders, who used the upper vaults to stable their horses. In November 1868, Captain Charles Warren of the British Royal Engineers dug a vertical shaft around 90 feet down to the bedrock at the southeast angle of the Temple Mount platform. This sketch shows what they found. Herod stones are unique in that they have a marginal dressing, meaning that each had a frame or margin chiseled around its edge. In a Herod or Herodian built wall, we would see stones that have matching equal margins, which the southeast corner does not have. This wall is made up of recycled Herod or Herodin stones taken from somewhere else and used to build this wall. Some of the stones even have mason marks on them. The masons cut and marked the stones at the quarry so that the builders could place them properly to create a specified building, much like a prefab house of today. This section of the east wall was not built by Herodin builders. And of course the southeast corner of Solomon's stables didn't exist when Nehemiah was rebuilding the city wall. At that time, one would have been able to see the east wall of Triple Gate, Solomon's porch, the very edge of a steep hill. Also, a bridge crossing the Kidron Valley, the bridge of the Red Heifer, would have started at Solomon's porch, or portico, which contained the east gate, and continued across to the Mount of Olives. This section of the east wall was most likely built by the Roman Emperor Hadrian around 130 to 135 AD. He needed a large flat mount to build the Temple of Jupiter complex on. Here is an example of the Temple of Jupiter complex in Lebanon, just to get an idea of its size and shape. To accommodate such a huge temple, similar to this one, Hadrian's builders would have needed to build up and increase the size of the mount at the southeast end. If my theory is correct, then the best way to do this would be to build his south wall on the pre-existing platform at the top of the huge steps of the Ophel. A partial wall, or what was left of it, would have already existed, and he need only make it a much higher wall. The partial wall would have once been the inner wall surrounding Herod's temple and priest court. Emperor Hadrian would need only to build up and extend that wall to the Triple Gate building, Solomon's portico, and then create a new southeast corner, seen here as Solomon's stables. As you can see in this photo, if he tried to take his rectangle enclosure any further to the south, he would have to build very deeply into the Kidron Valley for his new southeast corner. To rebuild the outer wall of the former temple of the Jews, seen in the white writing on the photo, would not work for that reason. This would mean that the Romans were responsible for the size and shape of the mount we see today. Of course, the temple house was completely destroyed in 70 AD, long before the ground level of the temple mount was raised to this new level. A lower wall, believed to have been built possibly by Herod's grandson, extended all the way from Triple Gate down to where the southeast corner is now. The Red Heifer Bridge would have gone in between that wall and the Hasmonean wall, the straight joint, to build up the southeast corner to accommodate the Temple of Jupiter complex would require tearing down that bridge. Hadrian had to remove that part of the bridge from the straight joint upward to the portico of Solomon, and then build the terraced vaults. It would require building a gate into this wall, which could then be reconnected with the bridge outside of the wall. The arch and walled-up arched openings can still be seen in the wall today near the straight joint. This bridge traversed the Kidron Valley, and from there one could look back and straight through the east gate to the Holy of Holies. Jewish people of the time desired to be entombed directly across from the east gate. In a direct line from this arch are the tombs of what people call the tomb of Zechariah. This tomb was actually built in the 1st century for the high priest. It would have been below the bridge. The Jewish cemetery continues outward from there. Please continue with part 3.